Uh, Assalamu alaikum. So, yet another beautiful day in Lahore. Weather is okay. It's not really so hot, and definitely, uh, uh, as as the summer is, we are in the middle of the summer, and yes, I've heard that in Europe, the sun is shining uh, with its full, well, what you say, it's a hot weather in Europe. So hopefully everybody is drinking water and, you know, and continue doing physical activity, because that will not only build stamina but it will give you physical strength. Uh, while I was in Europe, I used to, you know, cycle a lot and walk a lot. So it's just good. If you have a great water intake, perspiration and hot weather can be okay. Uh, it's like any sportsman or sportswoman will tell you that. So that you should keep in mind. And yes, of course, a cap or a hat cover is recommended. I mean, a scarf would be excellent choice with a different color. Lighter color scarves would be an excellent choice for Europeans to then withstand a very hot and humid weather. But I think it's more because uh, in Europe, the duration of the day is so long that I can imagine that exposure to sun might have its own risks. But right now that drink a lot of water and or liquid, uh, abstain from liquor. That's for sure. I mean, it's abstain from liquor, drink a lot of water or juices, and uh, uh, keep yourself, physically active, and perspiration is really good. So, I have few times mentioned that I'm a middle-aged man, but I belong to a generation whereby most of our times would be spent on watching movies, playing sports, and then I would be always in awe with studious students, who were definitely aiming for engineering or medical sciences, or would be great mathematicians. So I was wondering. I mean, there is a generation gap, but I did see when I was very young the information age, and then being a PhD, I have given it a serious thought because, and I have come up with some useful points. For example, my doctors, Rania Daud and Mina Daud, would have tablets uh, when they were really young. I mean, maybe 2 years old or 3 years old, and then they spend most of the time on YouTube watching children documentaries, movies, or clips. Most of them are funny, and that's really nice. And they would be watching a lot of music, especially K-pop. That's their favorite. The South Korea music bands, TXT, or there are some other music bands for in K-pop, and so they generally spend their time uh, uh, with different patterns of information, and it's real information, and especially they could have great linguistic expressions as well. Early in the day, if I remember my childhood, it was mostly spent watching cartoons or watching definitely a lot of movies. And I remember, there's this these the this Friends show, or this 2.5 Men show where it's a half hour comedy where people would you would on the background you would hear a lot of laughing, and we would be surprised that our English was not that good, so we couldn't understand a thing. But yes, it was all real, mostly being a youth or a young child, watching a lot of TV. It was more about images. So definitely, these Bollywood Amitabh Bachchans or Mithun Chakravartis, or there were so many other heroes. Their movies suddenly, from 1980, suddenly a certain script was being followed. Magambo Hoshua. I mean, now what I will let you know is every generation has their own interpretation of that piece of information. Because I remember when we were really young, maybe 2 years old, I was 3 years old, me and my siblings. My mother used to tell us the story that, you know, that on the moon there is an old lady sitting and she's working with her some sewing something, and I never thought it's a serious thing. My daughters would know that Earth is a habitable planet. They know the difference since very well, at a very young age. So our cognition is built to understand fiction. I mean, remember, there are so many stories your parents tell you when you are really young. You are 2, 3 years old, and then you don't take them seriously because you take them as fiction, and that's how the subconscious build the cognition. So that's the same thing. What is the difference is what I'm trying to tell you is that this the technology, the images which are more realistic now, and secondly, a lot of avenues to then get a lot of information, and definitely this information represents itself with a touch of reality, a little bit more of a touch of reality. I mean, it is mostly about social life for you and children. It's a whole new market. I mean, even management companies would now be organizing birthdays, welcome parties, farewell parties. I mean, in 1980s, 1990s, that was not common. It started in 21st century. So it means that more and more young people understand, can deal with diverse set of information, and that's pretty common. But then there's a certain cue to it that you need to be. I mean, if you have ever done an IQ test when you were young, pattern recognition is one of the most important cognitive skills, and it will be an indicator of intelligence. So with a lot of information, definitely there is some kind of a subconsciously our cognition is trained to recognize, identify, or ignore certain patterns, and that's what it is all about. First of all, if you are in an economic hardship, if you are in a tense situation, your cognition can mix up pattern recognition. I mean, because of different levels of emotions. Whereas when you are young, you only have this. That's the best gift of our forefathers and inventors and scientists and doctors and engineers is to us, and it started in 1960s after World War II, and coincidentally globalization started as well, and information revolution started, and economic prosperity was achieved for most of the countries, for most of the people. And so our childhood was really very comforting. I mean, it's like it was playful. I mean, I'm still, maybe there is something in a child inside me still wants to prolong that fun factor, and that's the same. I mean, it started in 1960s, but it really got into momentum if you start watching all the cartoons. There was one cartoon network. We never believed in 1980s that there was a channel which would be showing 24/7 cartoons, and I was in metric, and I was still fascinated by the idea that someday I would have this dish antenna, and then I would watch so many cartoons. I would sit there and watch cartoons for months and months. And similarly, we never had a clue that 24/7 there would be entertainment channels. But now social media, digital technologies have revolutionized information, entertainment. But then it has a lot of positive value to it. But then you have to be culturally oriented, and you have to have a stable life. I mean, children, the economic hardships would lead to child labor as well. And then if you have political instability and law and order situation is not good and rule of law is relatively poor in a country, then there will be a lot of uncertainties, and then that would really allow a certain perspective to pattern recognition skills that have improved the social and intelligent IQ of the younger generation. So of course I know that the younger generation is smarter than me on average, and they could decipher, they could analyze, they could understand diverse set of information far better than me, and they have better perspectives. Because of technology, they have easy access. I mean, it's not my, when I was a child, my days would be spent just sitting somewhere thinking, that, about the story my father might have told me, or my mother might have told me, or my father might have showed me, these constellations in the night sky of Islamabad. When I was growing up, I was in Islamabad. And, ideally, I was just sitting there. Or maybe, in the evening, children of my age, we would be playing, some basic games. That's how it was. And then when I was growing up, my most of the time was spent on sports and physical fitness rather than anything else. It's like my teenage, if I would describe them as so. And of course, I've been watching Hollywood movies, Bollywood movies, but not. I was not really a poetic or a static person. I don't maybe have that social intelligent IQ that that should be represented through a lot of abstractness, because intelligence and abstractness and then finding patterns is the clue for being a genius. And I know a lot of my friends that they could recite poetry just like that and in their fingertips. And yet, of course, when I was at Kaidan University, all our female class fellows and university fellows would know most of the Bollywood songs. That represents a lot of intelligence and a lot of social quotient. But then let me come back to the younger generation. So what you see is that it is pattern recognition, and then how it should be defined and explained through digital media. Digital